My friend, time waits for no one. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. How many times have you caught yourself saying, I'll start when the timing is right? Maybe you've been waiting to have more money, more confidence, more support, or maybe just more free time. But let's be real. Life doesn't hand out golden invitations that say, congratulations, this is your perfect moment to begin. The truth is, if you're waiting for everything to line up perfectly, you'll be waiting forever. Perfection is an illusion, a trick our minds play to keep us comfortable, to keep us safe, and to keep us stuck in the same place year after year. Think about it. Time is moving whether you're ready or not. The clock doesn't pause because you're still deciding, and the calendar doesn't hold still because you're hesitating. While you're busy preparing and planning, someone else is out there taking imperfect action and moving ahead. The people who succeed aren't necessarily the smartest or the luckiest. They're simply the ones who refuse to wait. They choose progress over perfection, motion over excuses, and courage over fear. It's funny how we fool ourselves into believing that tomorrow will magically be easier. Tomorrow I'll feel more motivated. Tomorrow I'll have more energy. Tomorrow I'll finally be brave enough. But when tomorrow comes, what usually happens? We recycle the same excuses, dress them up with new words, and send them right back out on stage. Waiting for the perfect moment is nothing more than procrastination wearing a fancy suit. What if you stopped waiting? What if you acted today with what you have, where you are, even if it's not flawless? Because the moment you start, the moment you take one small step forward, something shifts. Momentum builds. Opportunities that weren't visible before suddenly appear because you dared to move. Doors start to crack open, not because you waited for them to swing wide, but because you pushed gently on the handle. We all have the same 24 hours, but not the same outcomes. The difference isn't the time, it's what you do with it. Every minute you wait is a minute you can't get back. Time is not refundable. You don't get to return it like a pair of shoes that didn't fit. You either use it or you lose it. And while you're hesitating, life keeps moving, opportunities keep passing, and your dreams keep collecting dust in the corner. If you want different results, you must take different actions. It sounds simple, yet most people miss it because they keep doing the same things while expecting their lives to magically transform. That's like planting apple seeds and hoping for oranges. It doesn't work that way. If you're not happy with where you are, you can't keep repeating the same daily habits, the same conversations, the same routines, and expect a breakthrough. Change requires a shift, not in wishful thinking, but in deliberate action. Look at your life right now. Every choice you've made up to this point has created the results you're experiencing. Your health, your relationships, your career, your finances. All of it is a reflection of the actions you've consistently taken. If you're stuck in a cycle of frustration, it isn't bad luck, it's repeated behavior. And here's the good news. If your actions created the results you don't like, new actions can create the results you do like. You are not trapped, you're just patterned, and patterns can be broken. But here's the catch. Doing something different will always feel uncomfortable at first. Why? Because your brain loves routine. Even if that routine is holding you back, it will whisper, this is hard. This isn't you. Let's just stick to what we know. But the truth is, sticking to what you know only keeps you where you've always been. Growth begins the moment you start doing what feels unusual, inconvenient, or even a little scary. If you want better health, you can't keep eating the same food, skipping workouts, and then crossing your fingers in front of the mirror. If you want financial freedom, you can't keep spending every dollar that comes in and then complain about being broke. If you want love, you can't hide behind walls and wonder why no one gets close. Different results demand different actions, and that means challenging the comfort of your old ways. The beautiful thing is that change doesn't always require massive leaps. Sometimes it's about small, consistent adjustments that compound over time. Switch one unhealthy meal for a healthier one. Save a small amount every week instead of nothing. Have one courageous conversation instead of avoiding it. Tiny shifts in action create massive shifts in results. The formula is clear. Repeat the same behaviors, repeat the same life. Choose new behaviors, create a new life. Excuses are expensive. They cost you your future. Every time you come up with a reason why you can't do something, you're making a down payment on regret. Think about it. Excuses are like little comfort blankets we wrap ourselves in to feel safe. But while they keep us warm for a moment, they rob us of progress. You say, I'm too tired, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and before you know it, you're standing in the same spot, looking back at all the time you traded away for nothing. Uses feel cheap in the moment, but the bill they send later is heavy, and it's always paid in wasted opportunities. People often say, I don't have time. But let's be honest, time isn't the issue. The same 24 hours that built empires, changed lives, and created masterpieces are the same hours you have. The difference isn't time, it's choice. Excuses are simply permission slips we write ourselves to stay average. They sound logical. I'm not ready. You don't have the money, and what if I fail? But behind every excuse is the same true fear disguised as reason. Here's the real kicker. Excuses don't just hold you back today, they multiply over time. The longer you make them, the stronger they become, until they're not just reasons, they're chains. Chains that tie you to jobs you hate, habits that drain you, and dreams that never see daylight. And the scariest part? Excuses don't hurt in the moment, they're sneaky. They feel harmless, but years later, when you look around and realize how far you could have gone, that's when you see the price tag. But what happens when you strip away the excuses? Freedom, momentum, clarity. Because every excuse you refuse to entertain is a step closer to your future. Instead of saying, I can't ask, how can I? Instead of saying it's too hard, ask, what's one thing I can do today? That shift in language destroys excuses at the root and replaces them with solutions. Excuses will always be available like candy at the checkout line, but so will opportunities. The question is, which one are you buying with your time? Because excuses are not free. They are the most expensive thing you'll ever purchase. They don't just cost you money, they cost you confidence, growth, and the life you were meant to live. Fear is a liar. Act in spite of it. Fear will whisper in your ear, telling you that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that people will laugh at you if you try. It dresses itself up as caution, as logic, even as wisdom, but make no mistake, fear is not your friend. Its job is to protect you from danger, but most of the time it exaggerates, invents stories, and creates obstacles that don't even exist. Fear will build a mountain in your mind and convince you it's impossible to climb, even though in reality it's just a small bump in the road. The truth is, fear never really goes away. People think they'll start once they stop being afraid, but that day never comes. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward while fear is screaming at you. The speaker who stands on stage, the entrepreneur who launches a business, the athlete who plays under pressure, they don't do it because they're fearless. They do it because they act in spite of fear. Fear thrives on inaction. The more you hesitate, the louder it gets. But the moment you move, even a tiny step, fear begins to shrink. Action starves fear. Each step forward proves that the scary story in your head was just that, a story. You realize the thing you were terrified of wasn't nearly as big as your imagination made it out to be. Think about the times you were scared before. The first day at a new job, the first time you spoke in public, the first time you took a risk. At the beginning, fear told you, you can't handle this, but once you went through it, you discovered you could. That's the pattern. Fear lies, but action exposes the truth. Fear wants you to believe that failure is fatal, when in reality, failure is feedback. Fear wants you to wait until your confidence doesn't come first. It comes after you act. You build confidence by doing the very thing fear told you not to. That's how you grow. That's how you break limits. And that's how you create a life that fear can no longer control. Fear will always knock on the door, but you don't have to invite it in, feed it dinner, and let it sleep on your couch. You acknowledge it, nod your head, and keep moving anyway. Because fear is a liar, and the only way to expose a lie is to live the truth through action. Comfort zones are beautiful places, but nothing grows there. They feel safe, predictable, and cozy, like your favorite blanket on a cold night. In your comfort zone, you don't risk embarrassment, you don't face rejection, and you don't have to stretch yourself. It's the land of routine where everything feels familiar and easy. But here's the problem. Comfort zones are like padded prisons. They keep you from pain, yes, but they also keep you from progress. Nothing extraordinary is born in the soil of comfort. Growth always demands discomfort. Think about it. A muscle doesn't grow unless it's challenged, stretched, and sometimes even sore. The same rule applies to life. You won't build courage by staying where you've always been. You won't discover your potential by repeating the same safe habits day after day after day. Every breakthrough you admire in others, every success story, every invention, every transformation was born when someone stepped out of the cozy bubble and into the unknown. The tricky part is that comfort zones trick you. They whisper, stay here, you're fine. Don't rock the boat. Don't take the risk, and for a while you believe them because nothing seems wrong. You're not failing, you're not hurting, you're just existing. But slowly the comfort that once felt so good begins to suffocate. You start feeling restless, unfulfilled, even bored. That's the sign. Your spirit is ready to grow, but your comfort zone is holding you hostage. Leaving it doesn't mean leaping into chaos all at once. It means taking small steps into new territory. Speak up in the meeting. Try the class you've been avoiding. Say yes to the opportunity that scares you a little. Each time you stretch, you expand what's possible for you. What used to feel terrifying becomes normal, and suddenly your comfort zone has grown bigger. That's how you transform, by repeatedly stretching until the old boundaries no longer hold you. It's tempting to cling to the familiar, but safety has a cost. You pay for it with potential. You pay for it with dreams left on the shelf. And the longer you stay there, the more you realize that the comfort zone, while beautiful, is also barren. It cannot give you the fulfillment, the success, or the life you're capable of living. Growth only happens when you dare to step outside and plant yourself in the unknown. Start messy, start small, but just start. Too many people get paralyzed waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect resources, or the perfect timing. They tell themselves, I'll begin when everything is lined up. But perfection is just procrastination wearing a fancy suit. The truth is, nothing starts perfectly. Not businesses, not relationships, not dreams. They start awkward, clumsy, and full of mistakes. And that's not a problem. That's the process. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't wait until they've mastered balance before taking their first step. They wobble, they stumble, they fall flat on their diapers, and then they get back up again. It's messy, but every attempt makes them stronger, steadier, more confident. Life works the same way. You don't grow by waiting for flawless execution. You grow by starting with what you have, where you are, and refining along the way. Small steps matter more than giant leaps you never take. People underestimate the power of starting small. Write one page instead of trying to finish the whole book in a day. Save $5 instead of waiting until you can save $500. Walk around the block instead of signing up for a marathon you'll never train for. Small actions compound, and over time they create momentum that turns into transformation. And yes, it will be messy. You'll make mistakes. You'll cringe at your first attempt. You'll look back at your early work and think, oh, what was I doing? But messy is better than motionless. Messy means you're moving. Messy means you're learning. Messy means you've started something most people only talk about. Waiting to feel ready is the biggest trap. Readiness doesn't come before action, it comes after. Confidence doesn't show up in the beginning. It shows up once you've taken the leap and proven to yourself that you can survive the stumble. That's why the secret isn't to have everything figured out. It's simply to begin. The dream in your heart won't come alive through daydreaming alone. It comes alive the moment you take that messy, imperfect, small step forward. Because momentum doesn't come from waiting for the perfect conditions. It comes from starting right here, right now, exactly as you are. Your life doesn't change when you wish. It changes when you decide. Wishing is easy. Anyone can sit back, close their eyes, and dream about the life they want. People wish for better health, more money, stronger relationships, and greater success every single day. But wishing is passive. Wishing doesn't ask anything of you. It lets you imagine the finish line without ever stepping onto the track. Decision, on the other hand, is active. Decision is the line in the sand where you say, no more excuses, no more waiting. This is happening, and I'm the one making it happen. There's a powerful shift that occurs when you decide. The moment you make a real decision, your energy changes. Your priorities rearrange themselves. Opportunities you couldn't see before suddenly appear, not because they weren't there, but because your decision sharpened your focus. When you're undecided, everything feels cloudy. You hesitate, you second guess, you stall, but once you decide, the fog clears and you know where to step next. The danger with wishing is that it tricks you into feeling like you've done something. You wish so often you mistake it for progress. But years later, you look back and realize you've been wishing instead of living. Decision is what transforms dreams into reality, because decision is backed by action. Saying, I'll try is weak. Saying, I'll do it is powerful. One is a maybe, the other is a commitment. Every major change in your life can be traced back to a decision. The decision to leave a toxic environment. The decision to take a risk on yourself. The decision to stop settling. Those moments are turning points, not because the world shifted, but because you did. And let's be clear, decision doesn't mean you have all the answers. You don't need the full blueprint. You don't need every step mapped out. You just need to decide that the outcome matters enough to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles come. Decision is what gives you resilience, because when you've truly decided, quitting is no longer an option. Life responds to bold choices, not timid wishes. You can hope for change all day long, but nothing shifts until you decide. And once you do, the universe has a funny way of meeting you halfway, but it's waiting on you to take the first step. Stop treating your dream like a hobby and treat it like your responsibility. Too many people handle their dreams the way they handle a side project, something they pick up when they're in the mood, when they have extra time, or when they feel inspired. But here's the truth. If you treat your dream casually, your results will be casual. Dreams don't come alive from half-hearted effort. They grow when you show up for them with the same seriousness you bring to your job, your bills, and your commitments. A hobby is something you do when it's convenient. A responsibility is something you honor whether you feel like it or not. You don't wake up and say, I'll go to work only if I feel inspired today. No, you show up because you know you must. That's exactly how you have to approach your dream. It isn't just a nice idea floating in your imagination. It's a calling. It's your assignment. It's the reason you can't stop thinking about it, even when you try. When you downgrade your dream to a hobby, you rob yourself of accountability. You allow excuses to creep in. You give yourself permission to procrastinate. But when you treat your dream like a responsibility, it changes everything. You schedule time for it, you protect it, you nurture it, you show up consistently, even on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. And it's in that consistent discipline that transformation happens. Think about the people you admire, the ones who inspire you. They didn't get there by playing around with their dreams. They took ownership. They worked when it was hard. They sacrificed when it was inconvenient. And they pressed forward even when no one was clapping. That's the difference between those who live their dreams and those who only daydreams, and those who only daydream. Your dream isn't just about you. It's about the lives connected to it. Someone out there is waiting for what only you can create, teach, or contribute. If you keep treating it like a hobby, they miss out. But if you step up and take responsibility, not only do you change your life, you create ripples that impact countless others. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't need everything figured out. You just need to decide that your dream matters enough to be taken seriously. Once you do, you'll stop playing small, and you'll start building the future you've been carrying inside you all along. Success doesn't come to the most talented, it comes to the most consistent. Talent is a gift, but consistency is a choice. You can be brilliant, gifted, or overflowing with potential, but if you only show up once in a while, that talent won't take you far. On the other hand, someone with average skills who refuses to quit, who shows up day after day, will eventually outrun the naturally gifted. Consistency is the great equalizer. It doesn't care where you start. It rewards those who keep moving forward. The world is full of people who had talent but never followed through. They had dreams, they had ideas, but they only worked when it was convenient, when they felt inspired, or when the conditions were perfect. Inspiration fades, motivation fades, but consistency builds habits, and habits build results. You can't build a strong body by going to the gym once a month. You can't build a business by working on it only when you're excited. You can't create mastery by dabbling. Success belongs to the one who stays in the game long after others have walked away. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum makes you unstoppable. At first, progress feels slow. The results are barely visible, and you're tempted to quit. and you're tempted to quit. But consistency is like compound interest. Small efforts, repeated daily, add up to massive transformation over time. It's not the one big action that changes your life. It's the dozens of small, consistent actions stacked together. Here's the truth. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's showing up on the days when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when it feels like nothing is working. It's writing when you don't feel creative. It's practicing when you don't feel motivated. It's pushing forward when you'd rather rest. Those moments are the building blocks of greatness. Talent may open the door, but consistency is what keeps you in the room. People may applaud your potential, but they'll respect your discipline. Success isn't about how gifted you are at the start. It's about how relentless you are in the process. Consistency turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers, not because they had the most talent, but because they refused to stop showing up. You don't need permission to change. You need courage. Too many people are waiting for a green light that will never come. They're waiting for approval from family, from friends, from society, as if someone else has to stamp their life with an official seal before they're allowed to grow. But here's the truth. No one is going to walk up to you one day and say, now is the time you have my blessing to transform your life. That moment won't happen because it's not their job to give you permission. It's your job to claim it. Change is scary because it disrupts the familiar. When you decide to grow, not everyone will clap for you. Some will question you, some will resist because your growth forces them to face their own stagnation. And that's why courage is essential. Courage is what keeps you moving forward when approval isn't guaranteed. Courage is what whispers to do it anyway when fear says, stay where you are. Permission is comfortable because it removes responsibility. If someone else tells you to go for it, then they carry part of the weight if you fail. But courage means you own the outcome. Courage means stepping out even when the ground feels shaky, even when the path isn't clear, even when the people around you don't understand. Courage doesn't promise safety, but it guarantees growth. Think about anyone who's ever created something meaningful. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for everyone to understand. They acted often with trembling hands and pounding hearts because courage mattered more than approval. That's the difference between those who dream and those who live their dreams. The courage to move without waiting for a nod. And here's the best part. Once you act with courage, you discover that the approval you thought you needed was an illusion. You realize that the real satisfaction comes not from someone else saying yes, but from you proving to yourself that you could. Courage builds confidence. Courage builds resilience. Courage builds the kind of life that doesn't require permission slips because you know you were capable all along. You don't need someone to validate your vision. You don't need the world to sign off on your potential. You don't need permission. You only need the courage to take the first step and the next one after that. Every step forward, no matter how small, creates momentum. Too often we underestimate the power of small progress because we're obsessed with giant leaps. We want the overnight transformation, the dramatic before and after story, the big breakthrough that changes everything in an instant. But life rarely works that way. Success is usually built one small, steady step at a time, and each of those steps adds fuel to the engine of momentum. Think about pushing a heavy car that's stuck. At first, the effort feels impossible. You lean with all your strength, and it barely moves an inch. But then slowly it starts to roll. Once it's moving, every push becomes easier, and soon the momentum does half the work for you. That's how progress works. The first steps are the hardest because you're fighting against inertia. But if you keep stepping, no matter how small those steps are, momentum builds, and what once felt overwhelming starts to feel unstoppable. Small steps matter because they're sustainable. Anyone can make a massive effort for a day, but consistency in small actions is what rewires habits, builds confidence, and creates real change. Reading one page a day turns into finishing books. Saving a little money consistently turns into financial stability. Exercising for 10 minutes a day turns into a healthier lifestyle. The size of the step doesn't matter as much as the fact that you're moving forward. Momentum also creates motivation. People think they need to feel motivated before they take action, but it's actually the other way around. Action creates motivation. Once you start moving, you feel progress, and progress makes you want to keep going, even the tiniest victory. Sending that email, making that phone call, completing that workout gives you a sense of accomplishment that pushes you to take the next step. It's easy to get discouraged when the big picture feels far away. But remember that every step you take is pulling that picture closer. The climb up a mountain is nothing more than hundreds of small steps stacked together. You don't leap to the top. You walk one step at a time, and momentum carries you higher than you thought you could go. The key is to stop underestimating the small actions. They are not insignificant, they are seed. Each one you plant grows into something greater, and together they create the force that carries you toward the life you want. Momentum doesn't require perfection. It only requires movement. One day or day one, you choose. How many times have you caught yourself saying, one day I'll get in shape, one day I'll start that business, one day I'll finally change my life. We dress up a one day like it's a real appointment on the calendar, but it isn't. A one day is just a fantasy, a comfortable excuse we use to delay the discomfort of starting. The problem is a one day never comes. It's a moving target, always shifting further into the future, keeping you trapped in a cycle of waiting instead of living. Day one, on the other hand, is a decision. It's not about waiting for perfect timing. It's about choosing to begin right where you are with what you have. Day one doesn't care if you feel ready, if the conditions are ideal, or if everything is figured out. Day one simply asks, will you start today? It's a line in the sand, a choice to stop postponing and start creating. The beauty of day one is that it doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't require you to transform your entire life overnight. It just requires action. The first workout, the first phone call, the first page written, the first dollar saved. That small beginning is powerful because it shifts your identity. The moment you step into day one, you stop being a dreamer who only talks about change and start becoming a doer who creates it. The truth is, you will always have reasons to wait. You'll always have challenges, distractions, and fears telling you to put it off. But waiting only strengthens the habit of delay, while starting, no matter how small, builds momentum. Day one plants a seed, and once it's in the ground, growth begins. Every person you admire had their day one. They didn't wait for someone to hand them permission. They didn't wait for everything to be perfect. They simply started, often awkwardly, often with doubts, but they started. That's why you see their results today. The question is not whether your one day will come. The question is whether you will turn today into day one. Because the longer you hold on to a one day, the further your dream drifts out of reach. But the moment you choose day one, you take back your power and you set your future in motion.